welcome to probably the most important episode of the series, because not only we're gonna unlock a lot of things, not only I have already done a lot of things that I need to show you, but we are also at a very critical, dangerous point. My steel reserves are very low. As you can see over here, it has drastically decreased. I used to have really great reserves, and as you can see, this has dropped very low, with now my consumption basically being always at the point of my production, and that's not a great place to be. But the good thing is, fast breeder reactor research 96%. We are basically ready to unlock this one, and it's just gonna take a few more minutes. I don't think there's anything that can really prevent it. We're gonna get there. Now, I don't think we're gonna continue with the other research that requires space research points until we have managed to really fix this steel problem. But at least with this, we'll be able to build, the end game fast breeder reactor, end game electricity if you wish, because that's also been really a problem in the last couple of episodes. So we want to have this. The good thing is I have been able also, while we were waiting, for this to go from 0% in the last episode to now almost 100%, I've fixed a lot of other things. In particular, we've continued with the contracts. If you look over here, there is basically no more mine. The only mine that we're still tapping from the world mine is the uranium mine. And if you look at, my island over here, the only mine we're still really actively tapping is the gold mine over here. So there's only two resources that I need to do a contract for. All the other ones we've done. So for example, in the last episode, we had already done crude oil, the iron ore and the copper ore. We now have also the coal, we have the titanium ore, we have the bauxite, we have the quartz, and we have the limestone. And on top of this, I have also started to export slag, because we make a lot of slag. I'm gonna recap where, but there's many places where we make slag. And if at the end of the day you want to have a perfect city where you can leave it and it will work without any interaction, you need to do something with your outputs too, not just your input. So this is what this contract is all about, taking care of what we create so that it doesn't block the system. This is going to give us some sour water, which we can use to create things like ammonia, which means we can use it for the fertilizer to make a fertilizer without having to create ammonia out of thin air. So it's useful. Now, as you can see, there is a couple of problems there that have started to appear in the last couple of minutes, to be honest. Like, it was fine for a while, but it has started to appear now that our supply of steel is so low. Because, for example, medical supply, the whole problem is that we don't have enough medical equipment because we don't have enough steel, and therefore now we don't have enough medical supply level 1, and therefore supply level 2. Good thing is we have a lot of reserves of supply level 3, so hopefully that'll be good. And it's the same for the household goods and appliances. I've actually just paused the appliances now, but the goods, that's continuing to go down because, our belt over here that's supposed to bring the steel is pretty much empty. Reserves of steel over here are pretty much empty, so that's what you can see over here. That's the problem. Now, what's happening? Why is this empty? Well, it's not so much, there is two problems. I think, we're really stretching our capacity of production, but more importantly, I have clearly a problem of exhaust. This is what's full over here. It's the exhaust. And I think it is not so much that my exhausts are not... Oh, no, there is too much CO2. Okay, so I did probably break something somewhere. But basically, my exhaust / CO2, scrubbing over here doesn't seem to be working that well. So I'm gonna have to fix it in a second. Otherwise, the really good thing again is that we have now a lot more contracts, and in particular, everything is belted. There's a lot more belts than before because we have, for example, the coal over here, right? These are 4 belts of coal because we need tons of coal that goes all the way here and goes into, the bus here. Same for the recycling materials. We're recycling over here. We're sending them on belts now. It's going back on belts and going directly into here. We have deleted the whole old production. It used to be there, right? Everything that used to be there now been deleted. We have some remnants, like a couple of construction parts, some rail parts, a couple of other things, right? So there's a few things left, but basically we've deleted the whole thing. We have also stopped, there's no more limestone here. We've gotten it all. So now I'm dumping to remake it flat. We're still mining a bit over here of the iron, but to be honest, this is a bit for the fun of it. I don't really need it. It's going on this belt here to join, right, this guy over here. So it's a pretty long belt, I'm not gonna lie. Almost 1 kilowatt, megawatt, sorry, for this one. 99% by the way. We're gonna get there in a sec. What else? But yeah, we have over here, right, this is the quartz getting with some vehicle parts level 2. Here we have the copper with lab equipment level 2. Here we have vehicle parts level 2 for the iron. We have the coal that is done thanks to vehicle parts level 3. We have over here the slag that is lens exchanged to the sour water that just goes into the sour water strippers, because that's the only thing you can do, except if you want to pollute a lot. And that's going to create sulfur, ammonia, and water. Right? We have then the next one over here. This is for the titanium ore, because we've used all of the titanium reserves we had over here. This is using construction part tier 4, and it's the same next door for the bauxite construction part tier 4. I mentioned it in the last episode, so I did it. We have the reserves over here, and it goes there, and it goes, one goes over here, the other goes there. So it is, we have finished the fast reactor. So let's go crazy, and basically what we're gonna say is we're gonna downgrade the space station all the way back. Now we can decide if we keep it at level 1 or if we just destroy it. I think frankly we're just gonna destroy it, give a break to this place here, because in particular, any new rocket takes 80 of steel, so that was one of the key problem. So we're gonna unclick this auto launch, so they're gonna stop launching, and therefore when this goes to 0, the maintenance will start going down, and then the space station will go back down to Earth. We could, if we wanted, keep our research going, but not with these, super advanced one. That's not gonna work, but we could potentially do some of these over here. So let's take a quick, but I think actually no, we're just gonna pause it for now, because this is obviously also not helping. Now let me take a minute, by the way, to talk about this. Is that indeed in the last episode we had the vehicle parts level 2 and the lab equipment level 2. We had started very quickly over here the vehicle parts level 3. Now I know this is a mess, we're gonna need to clean that in the future, but it's working fine, don't worry. We have also added on this side the research tier 3 with electronics level 2 and the tier 4 with the electronics tier 3. So that's working well, making quite a bit of these two, which is going to be important for the research, but also because I knew I needed some lab equipment at the end for over here the uranium ore. So we're going to need to do another contract for this one. Okay, so yes, this is, new things over here. As I said, we've connected a lot more everything together. Right, we have the limestone that's connected all the way. For example, also connected over here, right? We can see the limestone connected there. The plastic that we are making and rubber that we're making over here. Before it used to be, with trucks. Now we can block it because there are belts that just transport. So for the plastic, it transports a bit over here, but more importantly, both plastic and rubber arrived all the way there at the entrance, right, of our production hub. So that is all belted. What else? I mean, yeah, I've belted. Oh, I've belted also over here. So we used to have, one of these, how they're called, recyclable collections. It used to be over here. Now I've moved it all the way there. And this is, for all of the recyclables of my household goods and appliances, it is creating, right, some recyclable. We recycle it on site, and then we separate, right? And it goes over here on this belt to join back the production chain here. So that's also been automated. What else? There is more. Yes, over here. So this one is also a new one. This used to be sulfur, but the reality is I create a lot of sulfur here. I create a bit of sulfur there. I create a bit of sulfur here. So I don't need to have a mine of sulfur. We used to use this mine. I think it is this one. Yeah, we used to use this sulfur mine. We don't need it anymore. Instead, we definitely do need limestone. So this is what we have over here. Taking construction part tier 2 and making a lot of limestone. For now, I only have one of these belts. In the future, we can even have more if need be. I've put, all of the ships at reduced speed. We don't need to consume too much. And yeah, over here, we still have this working really well. I'm really happy. We actually deleted the old railway that used to be there, right? Not needed anymore. We do have some great reserves here of soil. If we want to expand our farms in the future, continue, to dig a bit more there. We have reserves of bauxite, so that's good. So I could, I guess, potentially stop this one for a while we finish this mine. But it's good to have, some reserves. So let me take a quick look over here to see what mess have I created. I think we're gonna need to clean that a bit for sure to make sure that it works well for these, right, to be able to work at 100%. There it is. I found the problem. Basically, this guy over here was only accepting carbon dioxide, but I had made a bypass that when this whole thing is too full of exhaust, that we send a bit of exhaust there, but it was not accepted, in the recipes. So obviously that had blocked the whole thing. Now I've made it there, so it's fine. It is all restarting. You can see the whole thing is restarting. So I'm gonna give it a couple of minutes, to see if that enables us to restart all of these guys. I mean, I can already see they're all restarting. So still probably need to give them a couple of minutes to see, if it can actually restart at full speed or if we're gonna have a problem. But right now it seems okay, Oh, no, here, yeah, it's waiting for products. Okay, yeah, so we still have a bit of problem with exhaust, but it could just be because the whole thing was full, so you need a bit of time to clean the system. But still, that probably means, we should have maybe one or two, I guess my calculations for the exhaust scrubbers, or maybe for the CO2 into, the chemical plant was not right. Maybe it's like this pipe here. Oh yeah, this is a tier 3, it probably needs to be a tier 4. So I'm gonna fix that a bit, but more importantly, I want to see those warnings disappearing. So hopefully in a couple of minutes, we'll get there, especially now that we've stopped, the research, we've stopped using any steel on this side. I'm hoping everything goes back to normal. And so I'll see you in a minute. A couple of minutes later, ladies and gents, and good news, bad news. The good news, we're still alive, and actually, a lot of things have improved. For example, if you look at my warnings over here, right, the medical over here, totally fine, right? All of this is back to full. This one is not full, but almost full, right, of steel. We have also these guys here, they're full, so all good there. We have also made a lot of progress to get these guys full. You can see this one is completely full, for example, for the red parts. The bad news is it's taking a long time to make these ones full, and this steel over here, or over there, is still not full. It's still empty. We are producing at the max. You can see this belt here is always above 90%. It's basically almost always full. We are producing tons of steel. This whole thing here is working basically, but it's still not enough. It's still not enough. Why is it still not enough? Well, we're using steel in quite a few things, right? We're using steel for my vehicle parts. We're using steel for my lab equipments, which then are transformed over here, right, into these guys to make the parts that we're selling to get copper, to get iron, etc. So we're using a lot of steel, all the time, even when I do nothing. On top of this, we are also using steel, of course, again, all the time for household goods, etc. And last but definitely not least, we're using a lot of steel through the mechanical parts for all of my maintenance. And my maintenance is pretty huge. So everything that can improve the maintenance, we're gonna want to look into it. And there's actually quite a few things we can do about it. So I'm gonna need, right, to make some progress on this to either produce more steel, but honestly, I think we're already producing a lot. More importantly, to use our steel a bit better, right, to recycle more, to have less maintenance, those type of things. So we'll talk about this, but more importantly, I want to show you that as always, I've created like a mini version of the new production. This is over here our first fast breeder reactor. And by the way, this costs like an arm and a leg. This is 1,500 of the purple, so tier 4 construction parts, 200 titanium alloy, 200 electronics tier 3. So it costed me a lot, but we have built the first one over here and it's working. You can see over here, I've only put it at level 1, but it's working. And again, I always do this to kind of make sure I know how those things are working, that they haven't changed it since the last version. And then we're going to create a huge one. Spoiler alert, it's going to be over here. We have just almost, there is one tile left, finish doing this whole piece. This whole piece used to be water. It used to end over here, the soil. Now we have covered all of this. And so, yeah, we're gonna be able to put here those new nuclear farms. And actually, we're gonna be able to do a lot of things with this. But let me explain quickly, what's happening. So actually, I've started all the way over here. So instead of transforming our plutonium into MOX, we used to transform into MOX, now I've transformed it a bit into core fuel. So it's still taking this plutonium and then just a bit of salt and goes into core fuel. So over here, we have, basically only output is the depleted uranium. We don't have anything toxic because the spent fuel is transformed into plutonium and fission product. The fission products transform into retired waste, and the plutonium is transformed into core fuel. And the good thing is this is a liquid, so you can actually transport it with a pump very far, not a problem. I mean, yes, it costs some maintenance, but apart from that, no problem. So that's what we're doing over here, right? Sending this core fuel very far. Similarly, over here, we had all of these spent MOX, radioactive waste storage. This is where we used to have the oil refinery, right? So this oil refinery over here it had one spent MOX or MOX in a nuclear reactor. So we have quite a lot of spent MOX. And you don't want to transport this very far because that's going to create some radiation. I don't have radiation because I'm not transporting very far, but as soon as you start transporting it, it's going to be a problem. So instead, we're going to change it on site with this new thing over here, the nuclear reprocessing plant for blanket fuel, not core fuel. This one is called blanket fuel. So we're going to take this spent MOX, and by the way, you can also, no, wrong one. You can also do it with your spent fuel if you want directly. So at some point we can stop also on the other side by doing MOX, and then we can just go directly to that one if we want. But yeah, with this, we're gonna add, a bit of acid. That's it, the acid was already there, a bit of salt, and we do need also some molten glass. This is a challenge, but this was the same over here, right? We also had molten glass. So that is not new. I did make a pretty, if you ask me, smart way to do it is I'm using only the recycled glass, which was already here, right? We already had this belt here that was going back to the glass production. So what I said is just go there and be used here. So that way we just need a bit of graphite and it creates a bit of exhaust, but that's easy for now because this is all temporary anyway, right? So we're doing this. With that, we're creating some blanket fuel and fission product. And remember, the fission product will be retired in, 100 years? Yeah, not 1000, right? Yes, 100 years. It will be retired and then we can scrap it and make more recyclable things. So with this, we're creating those blanket fuel. And by the way, this over here, this cost me a lot. This is just to have some reserves of blanket fuel for now. Because I'm trying to use all of these spent MOX and then have as much as possible of these in reserves before we create those things in other ways, because there's in this fast breeder reaction, the cool thing is there's many ways to make many of those things. So you can see over here for the blanket fuels, there's actually, 7 ways to make it. For the core fuel, there's actually 4 ways to make it. And all of this is linked together. So we have made some core fuel and some blanket fuel. So I sent it with those 2 pipe over here, right, all the way there. We have now over here, water plus core fuel is going to create steam super or super steam. This is even bigger or better than the steam high, right? So in the past, right, if you look in the past, we had the steam high, now we have the super steam. This is creating this super steam, and then this is also creating core fuel spent. So it's not the same. This was a normal, this one is spent. So we're gonna need to do something with this spent. I'm actually sending it over here, and we're gonna need to do a bit basically the same, like put some acid, put a bit of molten glass, put some steel instead of sugar, not sugar, salt, and you're gonna get back core fuel. You're just losing a bit, right? So this is 16, and this is 12, so you're losing 4, right? And you're getting a bit more efficient product too, which we put here, will be retired at some point, right? Goes into this and recycled. So all of this working well. We have the steam super, obviously we need to do something with it. And we have also at the bottom the enrichment. Now the cool thing with the enrichment is it is not a byproduct. Because a byproduct, what happens is if you don't take care of the byproduct, everything stops. This is, for example, my core fuel spent. If I don't take care of it, this will stop. This one here, it is fine. It can work if you want, but it can also not work and it's fine. And this is, you take the blanket fuel. So what we've done over here out of my mocks, right? This is the blanket fuel. You take the blanket fuel and you're going to use this reaction over here to enrich it. And now you get blanket fuel enrich. And with this blanket fuel enrich, you're gonna be able to, kind of circle back and make some of those new things. Either blanket fuel, or blanket fuel and core fuel, or blanket fuel and plutonium, or blanket fuel and enrich uranium at 20%, which is, a new thing. Before we had the enriched uranium at 4%, now we have this one here at 20%. Which we actually can turn back into core fuel, but we also will need into one of the last production we haven't done so far. Now, one of the new things with this enrichment with update 3 is now you can choose if you wanted to have it off, where basically you're gonna produce even more steam. You can have it at 1:1, where the steam will be normal and you're going to have 1:1 kind of enrichment, or you can have at 3 times the enrichment, but you lose steam. So right now, I am at level 1, but I'm only getting 24 steam, which doesn't feel like a lot, because it's not, because of this here, where we're only getting 25% of that steam. But I'm enriching a lot. Now, I'm not really sure why you would want to do this, to be honest, but I wanted to show you can. What I think you will probably want to do more is this one at 1:1, which is kind of the normal, right? Similar for all of the other reactors that we have. 1 level is 96, 3 level is 288, for example. So this is the normal. 96 will make 96. It will use 4 core, right? So it's the same as this one. It's using 4 core, but it's going to make a lot more steam, but it's going to enrich a lot less. Instead of enriching 12 to make 12, it's only gonna make 4 to 4. But it's not actually a problem. This is enough for what we want in the long term. I'll show you that, in probably the next episode, but this will be enough. And this is what I suggest. But if you do want, what you can even do is put it off potentially, and then you're going to consume less cores to make the 96. So you decide, do you want to have this side production? Are you producing already enough of these? I'm going to show you again that in the next episode. But the really cool thing I wanted to show is we're creating steam super. And steam super, it can increase our electricity even more, because instead of having only steam high that you put into one of these to make 12 mechanical power, and then you put into one of these to make 6, so you're making 18 in total for 48, right? Well, here we're gonna be able to do way better, because we're gonna start by 18 plus then you have still the steam high, so basically 36. You're gonna make 36 megawatts of mechanical power just with 48 of steam. On top of this, there are two super cool recipes over here. The first one is sort of classic, but it's really powerful. This is for your thermal desalinator. Actually, I think I've put them over here, yes. So if you look at this thermal desalinator, we had in the past those three recipes, which were not bad. I mean, especially this one over here, where you take, 12 steam high and you're getting 78 water and 42 of brine. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. But now you're gonna use even less, only 6 instead of 12, to get basically the same. I don't know why they changed from 78 to 72, but let's say it's the same, right? You're getting the same for half of the steam. Or to say differently, you can double your water production and your brine production with this. So that's gonna be really powerful for, our water production. Currently, most of our water is actually coming from this old nuclear reactor, and is coming from this huge line over here that we're using mostly for the farms, but that is linked to coal boilers. So we're gonna be able to delete this whole thing, not use coal at all anymore, and instead just use that steam high, right? Secondly, the other really good one is here. By using, again, a bit of water and a bit of steam, you're gonna be able to create a lot of hydrogen, right? And this is with only 400 kilowatts, versus usually, most of the time when you want to create hydrogen, you need to use this guy here, right? Which is only going to produce 16, but is going to use 1.1 times 4, so 4.4 megawatts. So this is this one here. It is 10 times less power for twice as much hydrogen, right? Plus, you do get a bit of steam depleted, which means you can then send it back, right, to recreate some water and some brine. So this is gonna be really, really powerful for us to create a lot more hydrogen with less electricity, but even also create a lot more hydrogen. And why do we want to create more hydrogen? Because hydrogen doesn't pollute. So instead of using, the diesel for all of our ships to all of our cars, we can use this hydrogen. This is what I've already done for my trains, right? All of my trains are already running on hydrogen. But now we can do the same for the trucks and the ships. And so with this, we're going to use a lot less diesel and we're going to stop polluting. So this is what we're going to want to move into. I hope you're excited because that's going to take me quite a bit of work, but I'm excited. Smash like button. I hope to see you next time.